ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're talking about 2c-b, and you took it.
Took it the other night. I took 26 milligrams of it. I got some like maybe a year and a half ago, so it was probably like the 10th experiment I've ran with it. So that was 26 milligrams.
Wait, you've taken it 10 times?
In various doses to see what it did.
Oh.
It's very subtle as far as like psychedelics go. It's very like, it doesn't mess with your head at all. It just kind of like warps your vision and like kind of gives you like a more free flowing like MDMA type state. But it's not as like lovey-dovey as MDMA. So it's like a combination of MDMA and LSD at 25 milligrams.
Okay.
But it's very strange because I've never gone over 26, and supposedly it's like very subtle. So I've done it between 12 and 25. So I've done 12 a couple times. I've done 15 once or twice, 20 a couple times, and 25, 26. And in the 12 milligram range, it almost feels like a strong like mushroom microdose or something. Like you know something's afoot, but like no one could tell that you did it. Like I've done it on like a Saturday morning as an experiment and no one thought anything of it.
Without telling me?
Without telling anyone. But that was the experiment. So I wasn't sneaking it. I was like, could I do this and be in public? I've done it at the beach.
But was that a smaller dose?
12 milligram. So let me back it all up. So I'll talk about the 26 milligram was what I did the other night, and that was probably the best one yet. Because when I took 25 milligrams and like went out walking, I was kind of in public, so I was like not really giving into it. So we had to like kind of act cool.
This is you and your friend?
Me and Tim.
Okay.
So we had to act like, you know, we just talked, we had a good time. We like noted the fact that everything was kind of wavy and like, it just kind of changes your visual field. But like I said, since we were out in public, like I wasn't able to like really focus on it or anything. So I was more so like, okay, keep it cool, sit here, wait till this wears down, then like keep walking. So the other night when I did it, it was kind of perfect because it like, you get the full experience of it. And the experience is like, kind of like the warm, fuzzy feelings of MDMA. But then if I stared at the dog or like looked at you or looked across the room, everything turned into like an orange, purplish, like a really cool, like holographic type color. Like remember that in the 90s when they used to make like surfwear and it would have that like that sheen to it, kind of like a fly's eye or something. Everything kind of had that color to it, where it was like purple, green, orange, like what color do you call that? It's like the reflective color of like surfwear in the 90s. Chrome. It's like a chromey type, like shiny, shimmery, but like diamondy at the same time. So like the dog just looked like he was like made out of like vectors of like shining light, and like you kind of looked like that, and you looked really beautiful in like your facial features and stuff. But it would like kind of go on forever. So I could sit there and kind of get into that. And then I was like eating fresh fruit. So it kind of like, it's like MDMA and LSD if I had to compare it to something, but it also like turns your senses way up. So like eating fruit was like unreal. Like I was eating mangoes in the hammock and strawberries, and I felt like I was like a king being fed grapes. But like the only downside, and I think this is what you got a taste of and you didn't like, is like there's like a weird electricity to it where like if I was laying in the hammock eating a mango, suddenly I'd be like, oh, I got to start moving. And I would like walk all the way up to the woods. I would like walk around the grass. But like you kind of have to move because it has like a...
Yeah, it makes you feel kind of unsettled if you're sitting still.
It makes you unsettled. So like that's why I would see some people wouldn't enjoy it because you're not like... There's just an energy to it that makes you have to kind of do stuff.
What's the history of this? Like, where did this come from? Why is it not as popular as other things?
Well, Alexander Shulgin made it in 1974, and he loved it. He thought it was great. And his thing was that it was going to be a powerful aphrodisiac. He was like, if ever an aphrodisiac is invented, this will be the building block for it.
Was it?
I mean, I'll get into the eroticism of it in a second. I'm not going to get too into that. But so...
It's just a simple yes or no question.
It was a very colorful arrival, but I'm not going to get too into the schematics of it. I will in a second, but... So anyway...
You don't have to.
I think people need to hear it. So he invented it and it was just kicking around. I think he was kicking around in like therapeutic settings a little bit. Like they were mixing it with MDMA and they were having some good results. And then after MDMA got banned, it kind of became the legal replacement to MDMA. But since it's not MDMA, I think a lot of people kind of were like, this isn't the stuff. You know, so if you take it as itself, it's very interesting. If you try to say, here's a replacement for your MDMA, it's not, they're not the same thing. It's not a better version or a worse version. It's its whole other thing. You know what I mean?
What was nature like with it?
It wasn't very like
Like, you know how
it wasn't very like
a bird flew into the window?
it's not very spiritual or anything.
It's not like LSD in that
It's not like
sense.
LSD or anything. It's like it's more like what you're consuming. So like music sounds incredible, food's incredible, touches and everything's like sensory. So it's not like with mushrooms you look at a tree and be like, wow, that tree is part of a bigger picture. You know, like there's none of that happening. So it's very like it's very clear and it's very like what's in front of you type stuff. So there's no that aspect of it's not really there, but you're still getting insight, but it's like very sober insight. It's very like, I need to take more time to do this. I need to like start enjoying present moment activities. But the whole thing wrapped around like the sense of everything. You're eating food, you're feeling grass on your feet. Everything's very feeling based, kind of like MDMA, but you're not getting that like rush of love.
I don't know though. Like, it sounds to me like you're describing it as the 2c-b is more like an external connection to your senses, but I feel like MDMA is an internal connection to your senses.
MDMA is like an internal connection to your heart.
Yeah.
And like the way you love.
Because I don't really recall when I'm on MDMA feeling...
But like a rub feels good. Like if I like rub your back, it's
no,
like...
that feels good, but
Yeah.
it's more like a closeness. It's not so much the sensation.
It's not the sensation of it. But this is more like, I'm telling you, I was eating these mangoes and I was like, this is so fucking good. But then back to what I was saying before, like at 12 milligrams to 15, it's almost like a whole nother experience where it's just like an alertness and like a sense of like everything's cool, everything's calm. Like I did it at the beach one time and I was like, nobody even knows I took this. And it almost feels like a microdose. But then you're able to like sit in the ocean and be like, God, this feels good to float in the ocean. So it's like an enhancer. But the reason why I think it's like not popular and no one really abuses it or anything.
That was my next question.
Is because there's like an unsettling entry into it. And
yeah, I remember you felt a little nauseous at
you
first.
feel a little weird at first and like you don't know where to sit and you're uncomfortable. And then throughout it, there's like pangs of like, just like squirreliness and like, so it's got a weirdness to it that makes it like, it's not a wonder drug.
But you can kind of harness it.
I can harness it because I'm like this, you know, the juice is worth the squeeze. Mm-hmm. So it definitely has an aspect to it where it's like, that was weird, but that was cool. But I think for your average thrill seeker who likes to drink a couple beers and go to the beach or smoke a joint and go to the beach, this isn't for them because they might panic or they might be like that. A lot of people want comfort and that's why they tend towards booze and
I was
stuff
going to say
like
the
that.
average person is mostly looking for something to help them like not become less aware of their worries so that they can relax.
Yes.
It's just inhibitions.
So it's like staying at a 5-star hotel versus like camping in a weird place. Like
right.
you might come upon some uncomfortable things if you go camping in a strange place, but at the same time you will get that nature.
Yeah.
You'll get that break from everything, which is huge, but you got to pay the price of like bugs, snakes, being in the woods, waking up because a bear's at your tent, as opposed to like staying in a spa where it's like everything's taken care of. I think it's similar to that where like the 2CB has a weird side to it that a lot of people might be like, this isn't for me. Or that was cool, but I'm glad I did that, but I don't really want to do that again. Because it's like, it's hard to put your finger on. They call it a body load. Like the physical feelings of your body while on the psychedelic, be it like a little bit of nausea or just like that presence of like, I gotta move. Like I can't describe it. You experienced it. Remember when I gave you the 12 milligrams and you were like, I can't just sit here. I need to like do yoga or something. I need to stretch. I want to walk.
Or I felt irritated on
You
2c-b.
feel very, that's what I'm saying. There's a sense of like irritation and like wanting to like move and stuff. So like your average person might panic, or like when I took it at the beach, that phase was kind of like, oh, this is weird. But then once it subsides, I'm like, this is fucking nice. Like you just get like a nice, but it's so hard to describe because everyone's like, oh, why don't you take it all the time then? It's like, because like, it's not like a nice, like, if you took a drug that just kind of calmed you, like alcohol or like what I would assume Xanax does. Like, it's not just that immediate calm. It's like a little bit of a power struggle in your body and mind, and then a little bit of like weird squirminess, and then it subsides into like a peaceful. It's kind of like how mescaline is too. You get this upfront like nausea / like I'm very uncomfortable, and then it fades and then keeps like coming back a little bit throughout. You get little like spikes of it where you're like, oh, I don't feel that well. Then you're like, okay, I'm better again. So it's like this up and down type thing, but you start to like mentally work with it, and it can be very therapeutic. But the other downside of 2c-b is if you go over 30 milligrams, it gets very intense, very scary, and like overwhelming. Where it's like the diminishing return kicks in. And some people might like it in those high doses, but from what I've read, it's like a lot of discomfort. Everything kind of is like too wobbly and you're disoriented, and like it's not a good like high dose thing for most people. I've never tried it at high doses and I don't want to.
You said over 30?
I've heard over 30 and like 30 to 40.
So, to anybody listening out there, how would you, like, would you recommend somebody
I recommend
to
starting
try
at
it?
12.
What type of situations in their life would they want to try it for? Is it just a general overall thing to try for fun? Is it a therapeutic thing?
I think it's therapeutic if you are ready to like really think about what it's telling you, but it's also just a nice experience to like see what it does.
When you took it, it was therapeutic for you?
I feel like it kind of retuned me into my senses. And since I've done it, it's been a couple days now, I've been trying to keep that mindset of like, enjoy what's in front of you. So rather than like,
present.
It's not even so much be present.
But be present with what you're doing.
It's like, focus on what you're...
Like when you're eating, enjoy
when you're
that
eating,
food.
when you're drinking, when you're swimming, when you're hiking. Like, try to be like...
Sensory-wise?
Sensory-wise. Okay. Like, take in the smell.
Not mental.
Not mental. It's not like a be here now type thing. It's like, if you get a slice of pizza, stop talking for a second. Don't look at your phone.
It's kind of meditative.
It's meditative, but it's like, enjoy that. Like, you've been thinking about getting pizza all day. Now, when you have it, you're like, I got to eat this quick and get back outside. Or like, I got to get the hell out of here. It's like, sit down and enjoy your coffee in the morning and remember the taste of coffee. So like a lot of times I put on music and I'm like, whatever, put it on. I just keep working. But with this, I was like listening to, and that was the other thing. When I had headphones on and I would close my eyes, I would get like the richest visual depictions of the music. And it would just be like, you know, like the way like Apple makes their screensavers now, how it's like warm, thick, floaty, like almost like chunky colors. It was like a lot of that, like kind of moving around. And then it would switch with the music, but like if I listened to like something like lyrical, I would get like really into what the words were. So like, and I just was listening to like random songs on Spotify. So like I was listening to a lot of like ambient music and stuff, and the ambient music would paint this picture of like almost like temple like colors crossing, and you know, it was just really cool to sit there. And it wasn't like with other psychedelics, it was like, oh, you're getting this big download of like an important message. It was just a sensory thing of like colors.
The important message is
Just
be here.
Yeah.
Be here in your senses. That's
message. What it was. So it was like I was listening to this music and I would be seeing like these like Apple, I don't know what else to call them, but these like floating orbs of colors mixing, but it would be going up towards like a temple type. You know, when you're a kid and you would like put headphones on, you'd be like, this is what I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. As opposed to now I throw music on and I just do my work and I'm like, oh, whatever, here's this song again. Ever since I've been doing this exercise where like I'll put music on while I do my work and I really try to like get into the music, or I don't put music on and I really try to get into the work I'm doing. and like just watch like if I'm like mixing grain and dirt and the shaking of it all, like the process of it all, I'm like trying to focus. It's basically like what you're doing should be what you're doing.
Right.
As opposed to like, oh, I got to go pick the kids up. Let me write some emails while I
That
drive.
comes back to that multitasking thing.
It's just the multitasking thing where it's like you can get some stuff done, but it's like give your senses a chance to come out and do their thing. Because you get...
It's exhausting to multitask.
It is. It's just, that's kind of what I took away from it. And I was like, this is really cool. And I also took away from it, like, it was one of those psychedelics I did where I was like, this one goes on the shelf of like things I will do again. I will tell other people to do. Like it definitely goes in the category of like very fascinating compounds that like I need to explore more. And like I said, from 12 to 26 is a completely different landscape. It's not like LSD where like one hit of LSD, 2 hits of LSD, it's all kind of in the same world. 12 milligrams of 2c-b and 26 milligrams of 2c-b are like two separate things. 12 is cool as heck for like a day at the beach, hiking. Alexander Shulgin called them museum level doses, where like you could take it and it would enhance your trip to the museum. Then 25 is an experience. Non-typical psychedelic experience, I'd say, but highly worth checking out.
And you wouldn't go over 30.
I wouldn't go over there just from what I've read. I'm like, I don't want to go into the, like...
I feel like that's saying a lot too, because I feel like you would test the boundaries.
And I don't like, so with like LSD, like I'm like, I would love to like keep pushing the envelope on LSD because I like where it goes. Mm-hmm. Mushrooms, I've tapped out at like 5 grams. I've gone a little over and I'm like, 5 grams of mushrooms is as far as I want to take the mushroom world. 2c-b, it's like at 26, I was like, this is perfect. I don't need to go any further than this because like, I feel like if you amped up the body discomfort side of it at all, it might be like unbearable.
And you feel like you still carried into the next few days or...
Oh, I was crystal clear the next day.
Felt like it did leave you with something good?
It left me feeling really good the next day. And like that sensory aspect of it was still like alive and well. And now the sensory aspect is more of like a mental, like a meditation I slide into. But the day, like, it's kind of like the opposite of MDMA, where like the day after MDMA, you're kind of like tapped out and wiped. The day after 2c-b, it doesn't have that. It kind of has like an afterglow of like, or even when it wears off, you feel like really good. And that kind of like goes into the next day. But there's like a sense of like tranquility that comes with it. And it doesn't like, MDMA kind of ends abruptly and you're kind of in that come down phase. That's why the other thing, I don't want to get too into this because I'd like to make this a whole nother subject, but what's called nexus flipping is taking 2c-b at the tail end of MDMA. And that's what we did. And it kind of...
Is that what we did?
Yeah.
Where?
You don't pay any attention.
At the beach?
Yeah. I just feed you these things. I'm always like, take notes. This is called a nexus flip. And you're just like, whoa. But no, so a nexus flip is when you take about 12 milligrams of 2c-b on the tail end of...
I couldn't remember what we took after at the tail end of that.
That's because it was a fucked mission in Atlantic City. Had we done that like in nature, that would have been serene.
Maybe.
But we kind of took that right into the sickest, most twisted place on earth that I can think of.
And I was tired.
And you were tired.
Usual.
But, yeah, so like 12 milligrams, 15 milligrams, anywhere in that ballpark is a very cool experience for anyone. 25 is for the more curious. And like, I feel like it has more for me to explore. Like I would like to do it again. But it's like one of those things where like it's fascinating. I like where it is. I like all the 2C compounds that I've tried. I want to try more. And they're very hard to come by. And someday my goal is to make them. That's my ultimate goal, but that's way down the road.